This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of June 12th, 2022. What's on my mind this week? The questions are the answer. This past week, as you saw from last week's newsletter in the hotel room that was behind me, I had the pleasure and the honor of speaking at the Spark.me conference in Montenegro about AI and marketing. And what was especially revelatory to me was what happened after I finished speaking. Thanks to a lot of caffeine, I had about 20 minutes for Q&A, and it's in the Q&A that an audience reveals itself. It reveals where they are. The questions people ask you show you where they are in any journey, in any profession. If you're in a conference session about email marketing and people are asking about whether the word free in the subject line is bad, that shows you where people are in terms of their understanding of email deliverability, right? In this example, the question shows their knowledge is about a decade out of date, right? Now, if you were in the same session and a question came up about the BIMI protocol, you'd know the audience was current in their knowledge, right? They're advanced, they're on the cutting edge, they're trying to do the latest and greatest when it comes to email deliverability. Or as another example, if you're in an SEO session and someone's asking about, bold keywords in page text influencing rankings, you know their knowledge was stuck somewhere around 2005, 2006. Back then, yeah, that actually mattered. Today, not as much. And the question, I want to be clear about this, the question, if it's behind the times, it's not a bad thing. It's not something to be ashamed of. Definitely not something to make fun of. People are where they are in their journeys, right? And if they're at a conference session to learn, that shows at least they know they need to acquire more knowledge and they're taking steps to do it. That's laudable, especially today when an awful lot of people seem to enjoy celebrating willful ignorance. So please never, ever mock someone for their lack of knowledge. If they're actively taking steps to improve it, they're on the right track. They're trying to learn. So what were some of the questions that the Spark.me audience asked about AI, and what does it say about them? Here's a few of them. We come from a region with a lot of fragmented markets, small markets with not enough data to be able to draw conclusions or use AI. Are we doomed? Interesting question. You've mentioned the attribution modeling is one of the key challenges. What we are seeing now is a trend with the demise of third-party cookies, as many of the models are reverting to classical statistical models and moving away from AI. Do you see this trend reverting, and how do you see this developing in the future? Very current question. Very current question. And a very sophisticated question. How do biases in AI happen, and is there any way to safeguard them? As more and more companies use statistics and machine learning, marketing is likely to become more homogenous. Do you see people going more offline and more guerrilla to compensate? That's a real interesting question, isn't it? What do these questions tell you about the audience? Knowing what you know about AI and machine learning. As someone who does a lot of this stuff, machine learning and AI, these questions are fairly sophisticated questions. They're modern, they're current or reasonably current knowledge. They're based on modern knowledge, and they're based on the application of knowledge, particularly the question about the third-party data one. That's really interesting. And the questions are biased towards action, right? These are not theoretical questions. It's not someone asking, how likely are Terminators, right? These are questions from people saying, here's a problem I want to solve. What do you think? The questions also dictate the answers that we can give, right? A sophisticated question means you can give a more nuanced answer because it's clear from the level of the question what level of answer a person is likely to benefit from, right? If you're in a social media session and somebody says, how do I get more followers? Okay, that tells me where you are in your social media marketing journey. Maybe, because that question has nuance to it as well. If somebody says, I'm noticing a pattern in my data that engagement is becoming decoupled from reach, what should I do? Okay. This person is asking a question that has a lot of nuance to it. And so the answer that I would give to that question can have more nuance, because it's not a simplistic question. It's a very complicated question. In a case like that, I'd be looking at things like cross-correlation functions. How do we, can you identify when you started noticing this decoupling? Have you used natural language processing and topic modeling to identify if there's the content itself is causing the decoupling, or if it's the algorithms that are involved? So there's, some very detailed answers you can give when you get a very detailed question. So here's my question to you. In the questions you receive, not just on stage if you're a speaker, but in your everyday work, everyday business, in your customer service inbox, on social media, and emails, what level of sophistication are the questions you receive? And more important, this is actually really important, are the questions becoming more sophisticated over time from your audience? I would maintain that if the questions people are asking you are not evolving, you're not doing a good enough job educating the audience, right? Helping them grow. Because as they grow, their questions should get more complex and then be more challenging to you. If our audience isn't growing, we're not providing enough value to them, right? We're not providing enough value, so they can't evolve with us. And finally, beware any speaker that doesn't want to do Q&A, right? Because it's there in the Q&A that speakers show you how much they do or don't know, how deep their knowledge goes. So someone who just doesn't want to do Q&A, I'd be a little concerned. And if an event doesn't permit Q&A or doesn't allow time for it, find a different event to attend, because that event is suppressing the most valuable part of the conference, right? The ability to ask people that you presume are authorities detailed questions, right? Likewise, be real careful of a speaker that doesn't offer the ability to get in touch with questions. Sometimes the questions are going to be like, hey, you know what? That's a question that's really good, but that's what people pay me for, so I will ask you to pay for that answer. And that's legitimate. That's valid. But I've never met a great teacher that didn't encourage questions. Right? I've never met a true expert that didn't encourage questions. Keep that in mind. If you want to watch the talk in full, I've got a link in the newsletter. You can click through. There's a form to fill out. You know the drill. And it's a 40-minute talk and then 20 minutes of Q&A. What else is in the newsletter this week? While I was in Montenegro, I had a chance to record a YouTube video. It's up on the Trust Insights YouTube channel, no form or anything, on how to prep as a public speaker. Some things that I do beforehand to make sure that I don't embarrass myself on stage. Where'd that slide come from? Huh. I also have some political stuff on my personal blog, not on the company blog. We have newsletter roundup, the impact of commuting on both yourself and your wallet and the environment. How much marketing technology is too much from last week's show, and a live stream about Cloudflare. In ads and promotions, of course, I've got to pimp the Google Analytics 4 for Marketers course, which you can see at trustinsights.ai/GA4 course, and there's links scattered all through the newsletter. But it's helpful if you're trying to get up and running with GA4. In Get Back to Work this week, we have the lead project manager of branding and creative at Amerisource Bergen. We have marketing data analyst at Hop Skip Drive, associate designer at Woods Creative, social media manager at Telemize, an analyst for web analytics at AAA, a CDP product owner at Sky Networks, senior manager of multi-platform marketing at Disney, and senior analyst of digital product analytics at Walgreens. So some terrific stuff there. In the news this week, some stuff on the social media value chain. A very interesting thing about Twitter removing the no-follow attribute from links in tweets. Take advantage of that while you can. Dealing with declining visitor values in SEO. at AI ethics, introductions, data mining and machine learning, persisting Google Tag Manager's data layer across different pages, and a bunch of stuff from IBM on automated governance and trustworthy AI. Upcoming events. Let's see, it's June. So the next public event that I'm doing, I know, is MACON, the Marketing AI Conference in August. There'll be a Content Marketing World in September, and then the Marketing Profs B2B Forum in October, and then possibly another European event in November. So stay tuned for that. But that is all the news for this week. Thank you for tuning in. As appreciated. I'm glad that you're finding some value from this, and I hope to talk to you soon. Stay safe. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.